Hey everyone, and welcome to day 2 of SIFTD's Not E3 / Summer Game Fest 2024 coverage. In today's show, we're going to tackle Ubisoft's Forward press conference that just happened in downtown Los Angeles. They showed off Star Wars Outlaws, they showed off Assassin's Creed Shadows, and not much else, to be perfectly honest. So we're going to tackle those two games predominantly, and then we'll have a wrap up of both SGF and Not E3 2024. Maybe provide some suggestions for how it can be better next year. And maybe, hopefully, but because we're maybe influential people, maybe able to impact how it goes forward, but probably not. But we'll do our best.
You're
Michael
bringing the comedy today, Shane.
Michael Pachter, welcome to the show, and thank you,
Thanks.
sir. I know you're sacrificing some networking time to be on this. So on behalf of all our patrons, I thank you very much for making it to the broadcast today.
And networking, it reminds me of when Mark Rain was at my E3 party one day. Mark Rain being like a billionaire, uh, small share founder of Epic Games, so he's a billionaire. And he comes up with a plate of sushi and he points at it. He goes, "You know what the best sushi is?" I said, "No, what?" And he goes, "Free sushi." So,
And that's why he's a billionaire.
I mean, that's one of the things I miss the most about E3 is your party, Pachter.
You're
I mean,
saying, but there, you cut me out of some free sushi and some free alcohol today.
I think of all the people I know, you're the person who needs free sushi and free alcohol the least. Let's
That's
put it
probably
that way.
true.
Although I do know Mark Rain, and if he is indeed a billionaire, then he's higher on the list. That's for sure.
He is indeed a billionaire.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, he's a good guy and all, but man, I mean, I don't know. When I think about billionaires, I think about people that I meet and I'm like blown away by. He's a good guy, he's smart, but I would never peg him as a millionaire. That's for sure. Just meeting him randomly. But
Well, it's those Epic shares, it's that Fortnite gaming thing, isn't it? Apparently,
yeah,
it's popular with the young people.
yep. And welcome
The
along
Youngs, we call them the
the
Youngs.
Youngs.
The youngs.
And welcome along Marcus Beer as well, joining us today. I'm sure you guys haven't seen it, but the feedback to yesterday's show has been exceptional with our patrons. People are very happy to see us back together talking about video games again. So
It's like when
again,
the Beatles reformed.
so thanks to you guys for me personally for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know our patrons like it too, but just personally, thanks guys. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. So let's get on to Ubisoft Forward 2024. I guess generally what I would say first is that there was no host. Ubisoft in the past has kind of been known for having celebrity hosts of its press events. It feels like the no host thing is just something that's caught on everywhere, not just in gaming. Even like the Oscars and the Grammys, they don't always have like dedicated hosts anymore. How did you guys feel about the overall presentation from Ubisoft today? They did 2 musical numbers as well, kind of stealing some ideas from Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. What about you, Pat? What did
I'm
you think?
fine. I'm fine with it. I think that the audience is there to see games, and I actually personally prefer to hear the developer talk about the game. You have somebody who actually was, either the head of the studio or the chief designer of the game, telling you what they're trying to accomplish in the game, and to me makes it more fun. And it's just like I like seeing interviews of the director of a film before I see the film. Same thing. So I actually saw that with Oppenheimer before I saw the movie, and it made me like the movie more. I mean, Jonathan Nolan said, "Here's what I was going for," and then you look at it, and so I think it's actually really cool. I have trouble with some of their accents. I actually had to turn
Me too.
subtitles, and so did the subtitle person because YouTube. They were missing like every other word. Like the Assassin's Creed protagonist is Yasuke is how you
Yeah.
would say it, Yasuki, and the guy said Yasuke, and the subtitle person didn't even try. So it's like no
I thought
idea.
those were all done with AI on YouTube. I didn't think there was a human there doing
Oh, it
that
could
stuff.
be, it could be, but they totally missed. All I'm saying is like they didn't
It was
get it, and
bad.
I was
What's,
laughing.
what's interesting is they have a teleprompter. Couldn't they have just run that text to pre-program subtitles?
And again, I always watch subtitles just in case I miss something so I can look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Phil Spencer's was exactly his speech.
Huh.
And so was Sarah Bond. Every other person on screen, every speaking during the trailer, all the subtitles were spot on time. Ubisoft, they were on time delay, like 1 or 2 seconds while the person typed. Interesting, or the AI typed, whichever.
Yeah. Overall, did you like the presentation though, Pachter?
I mean, to say it right, I don't care about a host at all. That's what I thought you're asking. This was a quality show as opposed to a quantity show, and I don't want to take anything away from Microsoft because they had both.
Mm-hmm.
But the Summer Games Fest was quantity for sure, not that high quality,
Yeah.
but lots of trailers. This was, here's all the games we have out in the marketplace now and their updates. So do you really care about xDefiant? Maybe it's been out 2 weeks, but games Skull and Bones launched last
For
fall.
Honor is like 10 years old. And
Right.
they were still coming.
The Division 2 is 6 years old.
Yeah.
So I didn't care about that. But what really blew me away was the depth of the two new games that they showed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure we'll talk about them independently. So, but I thought the depth, just the amount of gameplay they showed, how much you can do. I got a real feel for the games.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to play Assassin's Creed, the first trailer, but now way more.
Mm-hmm.
Like now it's the first game the next game I'm going to play in the fall.
Oh, wow. What about you, Marcus? What did you think in general about Ubisoft's Forward?
Look, you take the two games out of it, the big two, Star Wars and Assassin's Creed, and I was looking Ubisoft forward to the end of it.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Look, it felt like they were scrambling to put stuff in. And I understand a lot of it is political within the company. You have to put stuff in, keep all the teams happy. But I know, was it this time 1701?
117.
Yeah, because I remember it was 1602. It was the first one.
Yeah.
And look, they had it there. Every team works hard on these games, whether they're big games or small games, and for them to get the recognition is always fantastic. But given that we saw, the Division 2, we saw the driving game that came out 2 years ago or whatever it was,
the Crew Motor Fest. That's actually a really good game, though.
But we see these incrementals, and it's great that they're still supporting these games. Don't get me wrong, but it just goes to show that Ubisoft had two things to show, nothing else. Which, honestly, the quality of the two things was strong enough that they still did better than
Summer Game Fest.
Sony.
Better than Sony as well. Yeah.
And let's face it, one of their games was one of the best ones at Summer Game Fest.
Right. Yeah.
So I understand that it's tough to pad out an hour. It's tough when you've got all these people down there to come see it. And I don't know how it works if it's like the old days where we'd go to press conference and then they say, all right, here's all the machines. This is where you can come and get your hands on.
They don't do that at Ubisoft, though. They've never done that at Ubisoft.
I know they used to do it with Sony and Microsoft back in the day. Those were fun.
So did Nintendo. Nintendo used to have little breakout play areas after their press conferences. Yeah.
So I'd actually say, what's the point? I mean, the audience, it's like, oh, we've listened to you and we're taking Assassin's Creed to Japan.
They silenced the audience. Yeah, they silenced the audience. They turned down the audio from the audience when they did the demos. It's like, why have them there if you're going to take away that live element from it?
It looked pretty small. I mean, if you roll back and look at the tape, you'll see that all the audience members they showed had Assassin's Creed shirts on.
No, it was all.
So I have a feeling it was
employees.
It was employees in the front. I don't know.
They wouldn't have flown all the employees down. They probably went to Skid Row with a bunch of T-shirts and a bunch of Quiznos and said, "Come sit in the front 3 rows."
By the way, Quiznos doesn't exist anymore, right? Didn't it go out of business? I think it did.
Rubio's, not Quiznos.
I thought Quiznos went out of business, actually.
Oh, maybe. I missed that.
Quiznos was still going, but yeah, I used to like
Quiznos has a
still a funny joke.
Now you're going to make me look it up.
But I mean, my point is that, yeah, we heard them going, "Oh, thank you," and then we were cutting. There was stuff that just didn't seem to make sense. It felt superfluous. It felt distracting. Like, some of the audience, I don't like seeing the general public in these things. No offense. But you know what? Stay. Let us get this shit together. Let us look at it as professionals and then come on and talk about it. I could have done without the content creators, the streamers. Yeah,
those montages that just came out of nowhere.
No offense to those folks, but they were all the way through the intro until the show started, the pre-show, if you will. And then they kept on popping up. I mean, the Avatar game, I haven't played it. it looks like £5 of shit in a £2 bag.
Oh, it's
But
not. It's not bad actually. It's pretty good. It's not like
I mean, look,
Game of the Year material, but it's pretty good.
I have an irrational dislike of the source material.
Not an Avatar fan, huh?
Didn't like Avatar and fell asleep twice watching the golden
one.
shower or whatever the second one was called. So yeah, I mean, and it's great that people are out there and people getting excited and people get to say, "Oh, look, my face was on the stream." Yeah, but at the end of the day, no. I mean, I don't need to say, give us the games, give us the walkthrough, make us happy, and fuck off.
So I'm guessing neither one of you missed the usual Just Dance number that's usually at Ubisoft's press conference.
I mean, again, they did a little quickie on Rocksmith, which is, what's the audience for people who want to buy a video game to learn how to play an instrument? 1 million people.
It's still going.
They just released it for PlayStation like last week, so I'm guessing that's why it was in there. But yeah, I hear you. That game has been around for like 8 or 9 years at this point.
But I think Marcus, what maybe we're not thinking about or addressing is, how this industry has changed and how the companies have changed. So E3 aside, which is a big change, the console business has become much, much less important for these guys. A much smaller percentage of their revenue comes from selling packaged products or selling $70 games packaged or digital. And a much bigger percentage comes from ongoing in-app purchases. And so, Take-Two is easy to look at. They're a $5 billion company with $2.5 billion from Zynga. Activision was an $8 billion company before they got bought, with $4 billion from combination of King and all the Call of Duty mobile stuff. So the free-to-play piece is 50% of revenue for everybody who's a console publisher. Ubisoft. They're the guys who just can't get their shit together, and they're struggling at maybe 25, 30%. And when you look at their revenue, they only do a couple of $2 billion. So they're literally doing about the same from all their digital that Empires and Puzzles on mobile does. I mean, that's pretty bad, right?
That is bad, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what you're getting a focus in these games from Ubi, in these Ubisoft Forward, in these presentations of, here we are, we do understand free-to-play. Look at all the free-to-play crap we're adding to our packaged product experience. And here's the problem with the industry. There's an old model, buy the game, and then we'll give you an opportunity to spend money in the game. That was DLC back in the day. It evolved into FIFA Ultimate Team, which is now called EA Sports Football Club Ultimate Team. But it evolved into Ultimate Team. Grand Theft Auto Online followed that model. Buy the game first. Call of Duty departed and said, we got Warzone, no game purchase necessary, and it ended up driving sales. Ubisoft is stuck in that old model. Take-Two's stuck in the old model. EA is stuck in the old model. They did gamble with Apex, but they don't really understand just free-to-play. So they're still taking what they know, which is core AAA console titles, and trying to show us they have those, and they've got all this free-to-play too, which is why the pre-roll video was Rainbow Six Siege for like 15 minutes, which is something, by the way, that works at Ubisoft. But it works, and it's a couple $100 million. It's not anywhere near as big as Call of Duty Warzone.
Or Ultimate Team for either one of big EA's big franchises.
800 million. Call of Duty Warzone is probably 400 million. Rainbow Six 200 million. Yeah. Grand Theft Auto Online 500 million. Yeah. So I just think you've got publishers struggling to stand out. Take-Two does nothing. They're not going to do a presentation. Civilization is part of Game Fest, and Microsoft is focusing on Game Pass. They don't understand free to play either. I mean, they have some, obviously, because they bought King, Activision King, but we didn't see Diablo Immortal in the presentation. No. Because that's not important to Microsoft.
There's no time for that now. There's no time for mobile games in Xbox's presser.
But Diablo Immortal is a mobile game. I'm just saying it was super important to Activision. They didn't talk about Call of Duty Mobile, which they have the rights to. You even had a little throwaway statement in the Call of Duty Black Ops presentation. The woman developer goes, "Am I allowed to mention Warzone?" And somebody said no, and it was obviously taped. But
that whole presentation was so corny and canned. I literally had to turn it off after a while. It's like whoever produced those things, it's like, don't get game developers to try to act. Like, don't feed them lines and tell them to deliver the lines. They're not going to be able to do it. It's going to look fake. It's going to look corny.
And,
That Call
and
of
that's
Duty
why
thing was
you
bad.
get professional management, but I mean professional presenters.
Right.
Anyway, so I don't know whether our audience cares only about AAA purchase experiences. That's pretty much what we talked about yesterday, and I am more of a AAA purchase experience guy. Marcus and I were talking yesterday about what's the right size co-op, and he said one. I don't want to play with anybody else. Yeah, but see, that there still is a gigantic demand for that type of experience.
Yeah.
A very significant component of our audience right now, that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
But in the global gaming audience, they want it all. And I think Ubi is trying to do all of it with really only the skills to pull off the AAA.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft is trying to do it all with the bankroll to do a lot of AAA.
Mm-hmm.
But Game Fest is just a bunch of A games, or double A, or whatever you call them. I don't know what you call them, but not that great.
I think most people call them like B tier games generally.
They were all small,
mm-hmm.
Except possibly, like, again, the one that was small that I thought we talked about is Life is Strange, which was not Games Fest, it was Microsoft. That looked fascinating to me. Like,
mm-hmm.
I was talking to somebody about that game being a hook for my wife to start playing regular games. Like, for her to think I can do a murder mystery where I solve the murder before it happens because I'm in a parallel universe. That's just an interesting concept. That's why I thought it was Annapurna. It just hit me as like, wow, I love shit like that. But it's still a purchase game, right? So he's trying to show us they know how to do free to play. And I'm sorry I've talked this so long, Marcus. I'm taking up all your time.
It's okay.
No,
you add context
to
the discussion that Marcus and I really can't provide because you work in a different space.
And look, you're right. I mean, I spent a lot of time on my iPad, and I played Diablo Immortal. I've played Mighty Doom. I am so pissed, as I said yesterday, that it's being sunsetted. I think it's a huge mistake from Microsoft because they have a great game there. They could just turn off the servers and let people play for free and keep it as it is now. But I understand Diablo Immortal being a huge aspect. I understand the King stuff, and you're right. Games as a service. If you're investing $1 million a year and you're getting 4 million back, I mean,
you're going to keep doing it.
It's a freaking no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. So I understand why Rocksmith is there, especially as they've just dropped, free access initially with limited songs, and that's the hook to get people in. I mean, the thing for me, and I suppose it's because I'm a purist. And we discussed this yesterday. I'm so tired of squad-based shooters.
Yeah, there's so many of them.
There are everybody's got a squad-based shooter. I mean, I'll talk to somebody who wants a consult job from me, and they'll say, "Well, we've got this game. It's really awesome. It's Unreal 6, and it's a squad-based shooter." And I can feel the light dying behind my eyes because
they're the most common game as a service. The cooperative, squad-based, third-person shooter is the template for, I feel like, most developers to create a game as a service.
Yeah, there are so many other games where you could do a game as a service. You could basically do those as more RPGs. You could co-op RPGs with actual NPCs to interact with, and just there's a lot of things that can be done. But anyway, back to Ubisoft. They came to they came to LA to show 2 games. They did it.
Yeah. That's probably a good way to sum it up.
Well, that's why I said quality over quantity. And I think that 30 minutes of the show was the 2 great games. And then 30 minutes was just a never ending stream of, we want to do this other stuff too. And to me, that's like a major Hollywood studio doing a presentation on their new upcoming 2 films for 30 minutes, and then 30 minutes on all the YouTube creators that they're in contact with who might someday become directors. And we just don't care.
Yeah.
So, it's a different business. And if you really think about, like, Zynga is different from Take-Two, so Take-Two bought them. King is different from Activision, so Activision bought them. Ubisoft is trying to do it themselves, and they don't know how.
They don't have the skills, yet.
They've been
Anyway,
doing it for years as well with Ubi
yeah,
Mobile. I mean, they launched they were launching the Ubi Mobile back in what 2006.
yeah. This isn't like a
2005?
new thing. It just can't get it right for whatever
Yeah,
reason. It's just not
it's
hired
tough.
the right people.
EA's never gotten it right, and they bought Glue and they bought Codemasters,
Yeah,
and they bought
Don't make me
Jam
cry. I miss Cody's.
and
Yeah.
then buying, they got lucky with Apex, which they are doing right, but they bought Vince Ampella's studio and he decided to pivot and it worked.
yeah,
So,
Yep.
but they never created anything. Their mobiles never worked.
yeah.
So it's hard to do. And Marcus's favorite director, James Cameron. Can you imagine if you hired James Cameron to make a reality TV show? Make American Idol or The Great Race or whatever, Amazing Race. He couldn't do it. And imagine if you hired Simon Cowell to make a feature-length film. Like, he couldn't do it.
Square peg, round hole. Yeah.
Can I just say, I don't have anything against James Cameron. Aliens and Terminator are two of my favorite, and Terminator 2, some of my favorite movies of all time. It's just Avatar leaves me cold.
It's just when he spends 10 years to make each film that you have a problem.
Exactly. Could you imagine the Amazing Race coming out 10 years after the fact when half the contestants are already dead?
I felt the same way when I saw the Golden Shower, or whatever you called it, Avatar. I watched it and I thought, what was the big deal?
Yeah.
As opposed to Oppenheimer in the theater. Oh my God.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What about Yves just disappearing? Like, he only showed up at the end. Usually he's a big cog in the Ubisoft press conferences. This time he just shows up at the end to say thanks and that's it.
I think given that it fits with the no host thing, because obviously I didn't really respond to that. I took us off on a tangent. The no host thing totally works, by the way, but you just got to make it tighter. You got to make it a little bit tighter.
Quick. Yeah.
It felt like the closing of an SNL episode at the end where he was standing up there with
all the people up there. Yeah. I do like that he celebrates his employees. I feel like more CEOs should probably do that, but I hear what you're saying.
I did. It's funny. I had it on in here in my games room. My wife was getting ready to go to work, and she was in the room next door, and she heard him say, "Thank you to all of you. You are the inspiration and the reason we make games." And she laughed so hard because. And she said, "No, it's fucking not. It's money."
Money, yeah,
exactly. So I mean, I love.
But the kids don't know that yet. They're still naive.
No, the kids are all looking at a very broke teenage in 20s and 30s. I think they understand, but yeah, I just find let's keep the stupid platitudes out the way. Let's not go with it. Oh, if it's not for you, I mean, without you, I would not be able to afford my 4th villa in the south of France, and I would be drinking piss wine instead of Chateauneuf de Bleu.
Yeah. He used to be a big part of those presentations, though. But I think you're right. I think it's just a general change away from having the one person, the one host that kind of tosses to everything. I did like some of their hosts in the past, though. Sometimes they did a pretty good job booking them, and they were funny, like legitimately.
Tyler.
Yeah, she was great.
She was the
I like the guy Joel McHale better, but look,
they were both pretty good. Like, I thought
they
did a good job.
This is a reflection of the audience, and the audience for this used to be the press and used to be business people who invested in Ubisoft, and it used to be partners. The audience now is gamers.
Yeah.
And Eve recognizes, just like Marcus and me, we're not as relevant to gamers anymore. They don't care.
Yeah.
They think of us as idiots, and they
just look at your age and immediately they write you off. They don't even give you a chance. Like, that's kind of how it works.
And I think
I look at them and write them all off as well, because I know half of them still haven't hit puberty, even though they're in their 30s.
That's why I miss Adam Sessler on Twitter, who's deleted his account. Yeah. But he used to take them on. It was so funny.
Yeah, that's why he deleted his account, though. So.
he got sick. He got sick of the abuse. But he is on Insta, and I think he's on Threads.
He's on Blue Sky as well, if you want to find him. But yeah. Well, let's start talking about the games, and we're lucky to say plural because there's really just 2. They kick things off with Star Wars Outlaws. I'm guessing they probably did that. It's like picking your favorite kid here, but I think they did Outlaws first because it's coming out first.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right.
It comes out on August 30th.
It's the big license. They don't do licensed games. They've done the Avatar games over and over, but I mean,
Yeah.
this is kind of, you know, unless it's a little Disney movie or a cutesy Shrek thing or whatever, this is a big deal for them.
Hell
This
yeah.
is
I mean, for any
fucking
publisher,
Star
having the
Wars.
Star Wars license is a huge deal. I mean,
But and this is probably the AAA platinum lock of movie franchises with games.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It possibly was in the contract, but you come out swinging.
Yeah, and it did. It showed a huge demo of the game for about 11 minutes long, and then it followed that up with another like 5-minute overview trailer. So it showed about 15 minutes of brand new footage from the game. But I think most importantly, what people wanted to see was the flow of the game. How does everything work? How do you get a mission? And once you get that mission, how do you go about accomplishing it? And I think another big question everybody had was like, how does the traversal work? How do you get from one location to another? And one thing I had a question about was, so she took a mission and then she got on her speeder bike to go to the mission. And then it shows like almost like cut scenes of her traveling to the destination. So I don't know if like it's an option to just set it to auto travel. And if you do that, then it shows like a more cinematic view of her getting there. Or if you can drive the one thing I would say about this whole presentation is I still have questions about both games. And they spent a ton of time on them. And I guess it's good to have a little bit of mystery, but some big things I'm still a little bit confused on. So like the traveling part.
Like, you've played open world games, and you know most of them, everything's dark until you go places, and then once you've gone, you know, once you've made that journey once, they don't make you take it again. Then you can cutscene your way to the, you know, you can warp to it.
Well, I mean, normally it's just fast travel, and you just
It could be
hit a
it could be
button, you
cutscene for
disappear,
fast
and then you
travel.
reappear there. This is different. I've never seen this in an open world game where it literally shows cinematic angles of you traveling to.
It doesn't mean you teleport, though. You know, the fast travel is just you already walked all the way there or rode all the way there, and now you can just go there quickly by tapping it on the map. You know,
we all know how fast travel works, Pachter. I'm explaining to you this is different than it's ever worked before. No game has ever done this.
If you think about it, they had in Assassin's Creed, you know, let the horse stay on the road, and it would. And this may be just a elevation of that, much like you said, Shane, where all of a sudden now you can look at the cinematic angles as they do, and if something of interest, a hotspot, Tusken Raiders, Jawas, etc., appear, it defaults out of that. So it could be just a case of hands off the joypad and off we go. And it's like it's almost like a screensaver, because you've been in the games where you're playing a Star Wars game, whether it's KOTOR or whatever, and it goes into free camera mode when you stop moving for a while, and it just scrolls around and zooms out. That could be it, or it could be you don't get it to traverse all the way there. You literally start off, you get to X point, and then it just takes you all the way. But
that's
you're
why
right.
I'm asking. I've never seen anything like this before.
We don't know.
Important parts of the game that are still unexplained.
It's the same with space travel,
right? That was my next. That was I was leading on to.
We're taking warp speed, right?
They don't show you. They don't show taking off into space. Like they cut and she's in space, and then she gets in a dogfight, which is awesome. There's dogfighting in space, and I like that they said you could choose to dogfight or not, and you could like deny the mission if you wanted to. That's good. And then she finishes the mission, and they talk about how it curries favor with certain factions. That's really cool. It sounds like it has a little bit of the Grand Theft Auto thing to it, where you're like working for different crews, and like you curry favor with one, and that'll give you benefits that another crew won't give you. But anyway, she finishes that mission. You curry favor with the faction, and then it appears that I'm not even. This may be a trick. So she goes to land on a planet. And it looks like it's going to be like No Man's Sky, where you literally go from space and land on the planet, and not like Starfield, where it's like a load. Like you're like, I want to land on that planet, and then it cuts, it loads the planet, and then you appear on the planet. It looks like you're going down to land, but then you go through this cloud cover. Right. And I'm wondering if that cloud cover is a cover for the fact that it's just loading the planet in, or if you're actually traveling from space down to the planet surface.
I'll bet the former. I'll bet it's a cover, because I was watching her coming down and wondering, you know, that planet was very sparsely covered. Yeah. Like there was hardly any clouds anywhere. Obviously no water was Tatooine, but I was looking and it's like, why is she heading for the clouds? Mm-hmm. And why are there clouds there? You know,
and there was a lot. When she started flying through it, the clouds stayed on the screen for like 4 or 5 seconds. Yeah.
And on a waterless planet, where do clouds come from?
Exactly. They're sand clouds.
That's a good point.
I think they've put a lot of you know, it is a trailer where they can't show a lot of stuff, and they don't want to show it because people like us are going to ask the questions. Those are segments that are concerning, but I'm not really. My problem is, and this is my biggest thing, is this, and it hasn't really been answered yet, is this Assassin's Creed Star Wars in a lot of ways?
I don't think
so.
so.
Let me expand upon that. It feels, you see the hero, she's got a little sidekick. There's a lot of walking, a lot of looking around, a lot of ducking into things, but it also doesn't feel like you're pitched into the action. It doesn't feel like you're close up and in there. I mean, we saw we've been discovered when they'd gone to the place in Tatooine. They'd explored the sheriff's hut, and they got outside and they were in a gun battle, and the gunplay looked anemic.
I feel like it's looked that way from the very first time they showed it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, and look, they're not going to. We know they're not going to be introducing force powers because that's every other freaking Star Wars game. This is more of an action RPG because they say you will unlock new skills and you will not, and that's great because
that's what it is.
RPGs are fantastic. But we've got the trusty blaster, because I actually stayed and carried on watching the presentation after
the deep dive afterwards.
The deep dive of both of them. I'm glad I did, because again, raised more questions than it answered. And I don't know, coming out of this presentation today, if I'm still really jonesing for this game. It looks good, but
it looks a little boring. I'm just gonna take the Band-Aid off right now. The game looks a little boring to me. And look, I know hardcore Star Wars fans love the shit that's in this game, like being able to go to these planets and see more of it than just what the movie, that little slice that the movie shows you. But you start getting into the minutia of Star Wars, I mean, you're basically just playing as like a runner. You know, you're a smuggler, basically. Is that exciting? Or do people want to like deal with like the Empire and like the Jedi and all that? I don't know. I feel like Ubisoft is really selling the license short. Like, this is not the ideal open world Star Wars game that I have always dreamed about. That game deals with all the key players from the Star Wars universe, the Sith and the Jedi and the Death Star. That to me is the game that I wanted. This isn't exactly the game I wanted. I do wonder if it's going to have mass appeal for people who aren't crazy hardcore Star Wars fans. So I found a little bit of the presentation a little bit drab. One thing I did think that was cool, Marcus, when you talked about how she came out and got in that very quick like gun battle, I like how the speeder bike is like a horse or whatever in other open world games, and you can call it and it shows up and you can jump on it and get out of there. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't expect that at all. Stuff like that, I think, can resonate with people like me who are open for maybe a more traditional open world Star Wars game. Stuff like that helps, but I don't know. When I start thinking about like playing that game for like 40 or 50 hours, I'm like, it just doesn't seem very exciting. How do you feel about that, Pack? Am I crazy?
I'm not a Star Wars fanatic, and so everything you said, I noticed. I don't care if there's Imperial soldiers in there or the Empire at all. I don't care if the Rebels are there or not. I thought that they were taking every other character in Star Wars and putting them in that world. So you just had all these different factions. It very much made me think of Fallout, and it was structured that way, where everybody in Fallout was bad. They weren't all good. I mean, sure, when you get toward the end, there's like real bad guys, but it was just a bunch of raiders, and ghouls and whatever. And there was a way to play as a bad guy, and I remembered, because I played it through once that way. And you would curry favor with the raiders, and then you were able to trade more with them. I think if you give her the right set of missions and you've got to figure out how to solve them, like, again, they only showed it once, but it was like, renege on your deal with the Hutts and anger them, or honor your commitment. She honored her commitment. But it's like, what would happen if you went the other way? I like that kind of game.
I do too. I like when there's moral ambiguity.
I had no affinity for any of the characters in Fallout, but they made it interesting. So I think that this is taking the universe, making it something familiar, but not requiring you to actually be an Imperial trooper or a Jedi or a Sith or whoever the other guys are. They kind of took all the main characters out, which makes everybody equal. No laser lightsabers. We're using, just guns and stealth. And I thought that was very clever.
I mean, one thing I will say that kind of backs up what I was saying before is that most of the positive reception to this game was when they showed Jabba the Hutt in one of the early trailers. Everybody freaked out. There's somebody I recognize.
Right.
And then in one of the last trailers, they showed Lando. And again, that was what everybody talked about that trailer. There's Lando. So I do feel like most people who are tracking this game and are just into video games, I do think that they're like, wait a minute, like, where are the characters that I know from this? And I don't think the main character needs to be one of those people, but I do think that the people she interacts with, there need to be a lot of them. And there could be, maybe they're holding that stuff back and they just haven't shown it yet. I don't know, but it's something that's concerned me a little bit.
I just think it's more like the Andor TV show where,
which I loved.
Yeah. But it was, you love it because it was different. You love it because the characters are not important, but it was interesting. And it took place on the fringe of the universe. And I mean, it was like everything about it was different, but it still was accurate and set in the universe properly. But there's no Jabba and there was no, Obi-Wan. I mean, it was interesting. So I think that's their spin. We'll see if it works.
What are your thoughts on that, Marcus?
What I'm going to say is I got no problem with playing the lessers. I mean, I play, Knights of the Old Republic. And the Old Republic, I actually refired up my old Tor account this morning. But if I'm going to play as a scoundrel smuggler, I don't want to have to be forced into being a smuggler with a heart of gold. I want to be a fucking asshole.
I think you're going to be able to.
They definitely are getting that choice.
Yeah, they have not given any indication here of, I'm the sort of one who will sell all the stuff to the Jawas, then torch the sandcrawler and get all that stuff back. Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, yes, I've got this cute little lizard thing that's going to be my best friend. I hope that little bugger can shoot lasers or eat babies. I want to, and this is going to be interesting because nothing in Star Wars has ever happened like that.
Yeah,
there's nobody from the dark side, or there's nobody who's not from the Force or the Empire or whatever, who is an actual arsehole as a main character. And if they can deliver that, and it goes back to the Mass Effect days, the Dragon Age Origin days, when you could be a bastard.
Yeah.
I want to be that bastard. And if you give me that choice and make it good, and my reputation is more from fear as opposed to being, she's a scoundrel, but nudge, nudge, wink, wink, she'll look after you. She will, she won't put your baby on a stick. So I want to be able to see and have the tangible, and stop saying curry favor because it's lunchtime and I can murder a grass right now. But it's the reputation system again, and how that happens. Obviously, that's been lifted from every decent RPG, so that's great. More RPG type stuff. I'm all about the factions. So it's like with this hand, I want to grab for the game. I want it, and then this hand's twisted behind my back, saying, "All right, easy, Tiger. Wait until you learn more. Read some reviews."
One thing I will say is this little demo showed a lot of gameplay variety. That, just in the course of one mission, you did like 5 different things. You climbed a rope, you snuck up to the hut, you snuck up behind somebody, you assassinated them, somebody got alerted, you pulled out your gun, you shot them, you ran out, you get on the speeder, you take off. Like, that to me was really impressive. Like, what actually was happening was like whatever. It's just the idea of all those things occurring within like a 2-minute period. So, Ubisoft is good at creating open world games. It has been doing it for a really long time. All 3 of us love Ubisoft's open world games. So I am pretty confident that this is going to be a competent open world Star Wars game. I just feel like maybe now that we're getting so close to release, we can start looking at the details a little more closely, maybe figure out if some stuff may rub us the wrong way. But overall, I'm still pretty excited for Star Wars Outlaws. So I think probably all 3 of us are. Are you going to play it, Pachter? You said your next game is Assassin's Creed Shadows. You won't play
probably
this
in
first?
a year. I'm not motivated to go play it the first week, but Assassin's Creed I'll play the first week.
Okay, and that's a great segue onto Assassin's Creed Shadows. Up until today, all that was really out in the public with a bunch of trailers that were very cleverly cut together to do a good job of showing the game off. But today we got to really understand how the game plays. However, at the same time, I'm not 100% sure how the game plays. So there are 2 playable characters. One is this brutish samurai. The other one is a shinobi assassin. what you learned today is very distinctive types of play among those two. Like the samurai is a brute. I mean, that combat sequence that they show with him was pretty freaking awesome, man. Like you really felt the power of his swings with that crazy weapon that he had. And then
I've never seen that weapon. And when he was walking and it showed it on his back, I thought it was a different type of samurai sword, and that was just like an armored scabbard.
oh
But
right,
when he started swinging it, I'm like, whoa! And it looks like it weighs about 100 pounds. I mean,
only he could swing it, right? And then he pulls out a samurai sword and finishes off the one guy. He stabs him,
I saw that
puts him up in the air, and like slings him down. Like that whole little section with him, I thought was awesome. I was like, damn, okay, he's an ass kicker. Like,
well, you like it when he stabbed one guy through and lifted him off the ground. That was pretty cool. Like just the idea, he's really strong.
I hope it becomes one of those things where as the game wears on and you get better with him, like you go into towns and people like run away because they're like afraid of him. Like his reputation has preceded him. I love when games do that. When the people in the town start talking about stuff you've been doing in the game, it really helps.
What I
think
want in Star Wars.
What'd you say?
That's what I want in Star Wars.
Yeah.
That
with the reputation system, hopefully that ends up happening.
Yeah. I mean, in this one, you'll see, I think because of his code, he can only fight bad guys. He's not going to do anything.
No, you're probably right.
You're not going to have this light side, dark side decision. So if people see him, it'll be like the little kid who ran up to him and said, please come help.
Yeah.
And it took him to her mom. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think you're going to get. You're going to get people going, oh, it's him. It's the samurai from another. And he's lovely. And did you hear what he said? He saved a chicken. And it was, have a cup of tea, love.
Yeah.
And a biscuit.
So she is the shinobi assassin. And if you play with her, it's completely different. You're sneaking through the shadows. She has like abilities that he doesn't have. She can like lay prone. When she goes underwater, it creates this odd like silhouette of her, so you can still see her under the water. And then she can slide up out of the water and start crawling. Awesome stealth stuff, but it's so different from what you do with the samurai. And so my question is, how does the character thing work? Like I couldn't
Well, first of all, when you say she's different, she's exactly like every other Assassin's Creed assassin.
I wouldn't say exactly, but she's more closely resembles the traditional Assassin's Creed.
They were quick to climb buildings and jump down from rooftops and flip around and land in hay bales and and sneak up on people clearly and assassinate them. So she's just a ninja version of that, which is cool. And I'm curious to find out if she's actually related to the family, whatever, in the Animus, like if she's actually a relative as well. But if you notice, they did say we have to go enter the castle and kill the Lord, and the game freezes, and they're talking like, well, if I go in, it'll be stealthy, and if you go in, it'll be a bloody mess, and then it freezes and it says pick which one you want to be.
Oh, wait, it froze and let you pick? I didn't see that. Actually. I missed that.
You choose which way you want to go. If you want to go in the shadows or you want to go through the front door.
I missed that actually.
So it said play as Yasuke. I must have looked
down to type some notes when that happened or something.
Yeah. So it said play as Yasuke or play as, is it Naoe? I don't know how to say it, but N-A.
That's right, Naoe. Yeah.
Naoe. So it says play as Yasuke or play as Naoe. And then once you selected her, he said, yeah, I think you'll probably be more successful because you can sneak in there. I would have loved to see the alternate have him go in, but he would have obviously had to kill every single person in the castle.
Right.
And that's the final scene in The Last of Us Part 1. You have to go through the hospital and kill every single person.
Yeah.
I mean, The Last of Us would have worked better if he could have slipped in there undetected.
Well, my question was though, and now you've answered part of it, which is before every mission you get to choose. So you're saying yes.
Yeah, once they get together, because I think you're going to have two separate storylines and they converge. And once they converge, but I think the thing I want to add to that.
But my question is, you can't just swap on the fly. Like you can't. My question was like, hey, can I start a combo with him with this big weapon and whack, and then tap a button and have her come flying off of the rooftop and stab the guy? Like that's what I thought the game was going to be like, but it doesn't look like it is.
Well, there was a kill that way, but it didn't.
She did it automatically, like a cinematic, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought the game was going to be that way. Like you could swap them in and out and pull off crazy combos together. It doesn't appear that that's going to be the way the game works. It looks like you choose your character and then you complete that mission with that character.
I think the game is going to be you play as one until you get to some break point in the game, and then you can switch. So it might not be the full mission. I mean, it might not be complete the assassination. It might be clear the entry room of the castle so that then once she's done that quietly, then he can come in. Maybe you can do that.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it.
But I'm just saying, like, they didn't really answer these questions. Like, I checked out a couple write-ups about the game because they had let the press play this before. So as soon as they showed it, the press published their previews. So I went back and started reading some of the previews, getting ready for the broadcast. And no one in the press knows either. They're all like, we don't really know how the swapping works still. Like, we don't know if, like, I can swap if I'm out in the open world. Can I just swap immediately? Like, if I'm just riding around on a horse or whatever on a mount, can I just choose to play as the other character and they'll
well,
swap
that's what
in?
I'm saying. Like if you're riding on the horse and you're him, and you see this, this carriage with bad guys on it coming the other way, you should be able to switch and have her.
But we don't know yet if that's actually the case. So
but it should be pretty easy to do. It's just those switch points, it's how many you put in. And it was the same mechanic in Star Wars. Do you let the Hutts down, or do you honor your contract? I mean, this is an RPG as well. I mean, there's choices, but the choices are between characters.
Yeah.
Going back to
Marcus.
that, one of the things that struck me, and it does seem like a positive, and it was just the thing I took from it, is that when they had the discussion, I'm going in, or are you going in, I'll go in the front door. The fact that it was night, it was when they had to do the attack, meant that it's better for her to go in. I'm just wondering if you can play that because of a different time of day, and it's just as good for him to go in.
Yeah,
time of day matters in this game. Also, the weather matters in this game. Like the seasons change.
Great.
Well, the seasons change in this game, and it affects whether you can do stealth or not. So in the wintertime, like all the bushes will be dead, and you won't be able to like crawl through them and use them for stealth. So in the wintertime, in a lot of cases, it's going to be better to use the samurai, the brute force character, instead of the one who can sneak, because there isn't as much cover for you to use during those seasons. So there's some clever stuff
because they're frozen. The rivers are frozen,
right?
So you can't
and you can't swim in the rivers anymore. Yeah. So there's the seasons and the weather play a big part in this game, and I think that's going to be some of the cooler stuff.
Unless you have a white shinobi costume. If we
What'd
can
you
have
say, Marcus?
a white shinobi costume. If you can actually get that uniform in the game, so you can actually sneak better in the snow.
Yeah, it's possible. So there's cool stuff like that that's already kind of been put out there. Like Game Informer did like a big cover story on it already, and a lot of information was released out of that. And that was one of the cooler things I remember from Game Informer's coverage, was them talking about how the seasons impact the gameplay and things like that. So, but again, I think one of the core tenets of this game, the two characters, the dual protagonists, how these work throughout the course of the game, is still a bit of a mystery. And maybe a little bit of mystery is okay.
It is a bit of a mystery. I mean, it's a departure as far as I'm concerned for Assassin's Creed. I mean, to have the two protagonists.
Well, there's the one that was set in England, Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Yeah, they had.
The two sisters. Yeah, the brother and sister. That's fair. But the brother and sister, they kind of had the same gameplay style. They had a couple of little differences that they could have.
Yeah.
But these are literally night and day with regards to their differences. One feels more like a traditional assassin. The other one doesn't. The samurai. Yeah, the samurai. I mean, the code of the samurai and everything else seems to go against the whole ethos of the assassins.
Yeah.
So that I can see why people are a little concerned how that works. I'm not talking about the color of the gentleman's skin. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's good to have the diversity, but I'm just really interested to see how they frame that. This guy, is he helping the assassin? Is he a member of?
Is he not a part of the Creed?
Yeah,
he's not the one that has a hidden blade. She is. So
yeah.
I mean, that's why I said I can't tell if she's the descendant or he's the descendant, or maybe both. And maybe
I think she is for sure.
Oh, yeah, I do too. And maybe they're related. I mean, maybe they have a common ancestor.
Maybe they get together and produce a bunch of future assassin babies.
They produce the Tiger Woods, the perfect blend.
So I don't know. I think of the two games after seeing this presentation, I think I'm more excited for Assassin's Creed Shadows. What about you, Marcus?
I'm very excited by it. It's still, having seen what I've seen, and obviously they've repeated a lot of stuff that we've seen over the last couple of days. It still has a ways to go to beat a game that is for me is just one of the best games of that era, and that is Ghost of Tsushima.
Mm-hmm. A
That
lot of
is
people
one of
have
my
tried. A lot of studios have
favorite.
tried, and
Yeah,
they've all failed so far.
and
Yeah.
it feels like that in a lot of ways when you look at how the cinematics. Ghost of Tsushima did so much with regards to ripping off and improving Assassin's Creed in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
and now it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they come back at them. But I'm very interested. I will
Which one are you
probably
more
buy
excited to play?
Fable.
No, pick one of the two, Marcus.
All right, pick one of the two. That is genuinely a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to see more of Outlaws. I need to know. I'm not plonking down $70 until I know I can be a freaking arsehole.
Okay. That's fair.
And
I
you
understand that.
arsehole me up, I'm good. And then one of the other things I want to see in Assassin's Creed, I want to see a return to some of the early, Brotherhood and Assassin's Creed 2, where you would, and again, in the one set in London, you could actually buy businesses, start generating revenue, have your little network of spies and this, that, and the other. There's been no mention of that. This actually looks more like an A to B linear Assassin's Creed,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want that. I want the wide open. I know what Ubisoft are capable of. I want to be able to. It's like, okay, so I'm going to invest in your tea house.
Well,
And
that's
we
the
all
other thing they
know.
haven't shown at all is the open world in Assassin's Creed Shadows. They haven't shown it at all. Like them traveling around out in the wilderness. Like that is not something that they've shown off yet. So more mystery still to come for that one for sure.
And it's what, 3 months out, 4 months out? Is it November?
Well, Shadows is still, that's what, November 15th. Is that right?
Okay.
I think I have the date here
Yes.
somewhere. November
Yes.
15th. Yeah.
That's 5 months. And
Yeah.
then Star Wars is 4.
And look, they have to keep us interested for the next 5 months so I can understand where Shadows still has some mystery left to it. Star Wars, that's August 30th, man. There's not a lot of time left for that to come out. So Ubi is gonna have to bump up its marketing program here and start filling
early
us in.
release. That's the first big game then, I think, of the fall season. And look, having been a former PR guy, I know all about giving people blue balls and leaving things dangling for as long as possible. I'm sure they do have a bunch of stuff planned. I'm just I think if the questions that we posed today are answered in a positive manner, I'll buy both games this year. I will crank through Outlaws, be really, really happy, take some time off, go back to Starfield, play their expansion, and then Assassin's Creed it all the way through to Christmas.
Yeah. My one final comment about Ubisoft Forward in general, and I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, the stream quality was abysmal. The video was just breaking up like constantly. I have a kick-ass connection here at my place. Video usually looks stellar on YouTube on my PC. I thought the stream looked awful. Like if you looked away, like on the edges, like all the textures were like getting broken up and pixelated. Like Ubisoft needs better people working on its stream, basically. And when you're talking about two of the biggest games for Ubisoft, probably in the last like 4 years, because it hasn't released a lot of games over the last handful of years, I don't feel like it showed it as well as it could. I thought it made the games look a little bit muddy. And when you have a lot on the line with these two big games, you want to put your best foot forward. And I didn't feel like the stream did that. And it's just funny now that we do this stuff and everything's live and it's a direct on YouTube and everything's pre-recorded and everything like that. Stuff like this matters now because you don't have the press all in a room where they're just seeing it with their own eyes. Like the medium matters now. And so that was just one thing that kind of stood out for me. When it first started happening early and then I noticed it and I started paying attention and the whole thing was just, I don't know if it was a low bit rate, or I don't know if they didn't negotiate with YouTube to get a big enough pipe for their broadcast. I don't know, but I just thought in general the visual quality of a lot of the games looked pretty rotten. So
I didn't have that issue as much. I'm running through. I've got a hardwired PC here as well.
Yeah.
I noticed the audio. The audio was all over the place. Like whoever's running the audio that was feeding into the auditorium forgot to turn off the mics at some point, so that it was reverberating. So yeah, that was off for me. It was a little sloppy. It didn't look like the best venue.
Was that not the same place that they've done it for the last 15 years?
Yeah,
it looked like it was.
It
maybe,
was.
But it looked cramped. It looked uncomfortable. I mean, when Yves Guillemot, who's 3 feet tall, looks like he's dominating a stage, perhaps something's a bit off. I don't know. It felt a little claustrophobic in there.
Yeah.
especially I think perhaps after Microsoft. And there are ways and means around that.
Which
and
was all
honestly,
green screen and canned and wasn't real at all. Microsoft.
which is fine. I don't
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think you need to go live anymore.
Well, it's like I
mean,
said, they cut the audience audio out of the demos. You couldn't hear the audience react to the cool stuff. They waited till the end and they bring their applause in at the end. But that takes away the whole live element. That's the whole point of doing it live, is that so people at home, even if they're not there, they can, oh my gosh, they're cheering. Like if you start like not paying attention, people start clapping, you start paying attention. Like it lost that whole live element of it. It's like, why do it in a theater if you're going to turn off everything you're paying for, basically, I guess is my point.
People start clapping at one of these things, I turn off automatically because I've sat through so many where the Sony fanboys were down the front and they were cheering everything. It's like, I had a fight with somebody
one time. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
do you remember on Invisible Walls, Marcus? I made a remark about how there was a Sony fanboy sitting behind me at the PlayStation press conference, and they ruined the whole press conference for me. Yeah. And that guy found out that I talked about him and went on social media and started calling me like all kinds of names, saying, "Oh, I'm not a real gamer," because I was angry that people were. I mean, this guy was clapping for like PlayStation Move crap. I was like, dude, really, man? Like, I'm trying to like take notes and like I'm engaged with it. And this dude is just like yelling and hollering in my ear the whole time. I'm like, dude, I mean, that's when I was like, maybe we shouldn't have like fans at these things. Like,
dude, I've been saying that for I've been saying that for a very long time. And look, it's like what Pac said. Is it for the media now? Is it just going direct for the gamer? Fine. If you're going direct for the gamer, just make it digital. Don't do these stupid audience events where people have to come and schlep all the way. Put people under embargo, let them know what's coming, get your previews in position, blah, blah, blah. And just don't waste our fucking time.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is. It's a time waste of dragging people to back to LA for a pissant show.
Yeah.
That is Summer Games Fest. That's obscenely expensive for anybody to get into. That is designed to build people left, right, and center. Apart from the Microsoft pre-canned press conference, this has been a shit weekend for games.
So you're segueing to the end of our episode.
Sorry, but I'm just saying. Shit to get off the pot. That's what they need to do.
It's natural for us to transition there. But before we do that, let's give our letter grades for this press conference. Pac, what's your letter grade for Ubisoft Forward 2024?
B+.
That's exactly my take as well. Maybe a flat B. What about you, Marcus?
Oh, I'm a flat B.
Yeah.
On a good day, I'm a double B, but flat B.
It's crazy though that 2 games carried that whole thing.
I mean, like I said, quality over quantity for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so those are our letter grades for Ubisoft Forward 2024. Now let's talk about generally Summer Game Fest 2024, Not E3 20, whatever the F you want to call it. Marcus, you kind of already segued us there. You don't think that there needs to be a live component anymore?
No, I don't. I mean, look, this event is designed for one thing: to park money from games companies, from gamers, from anybody who they can, and put it into the pockets of one man, Jeffrey of Keighley. I will actually raise my hand and say, I think it's really fucking terrifying that the 2 biggest North American video game reveals, expos, events, if you want to call them, are in the hands of one man. One man who is exceptional, who was in it for not for the good of the fucking games. He's in it, much like his dad was, to line his own pockets. And it's like, oh, isn't that great? It's not what we do. But that's no.
My wife brought this up yesterday after we had finished recording, and it took me forever to edit the show. I worked until like 3 or 4 in the morning last night on the show that we did yesterday. That comes with the territory. But I was talking to my wife. I took a break for dinner, and she's like, well, what's going on? How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And we got in a conversation about Keighley, because my wife knows Keighley, because I worked with Keighley for like 15 years. And she's like, why don't you like talk to him anymore? Like, what happened? Like, you guys were like good friends. And I'm like, I left game trailers and it's like I didn't exist anymore. I don't know why or whatever. And she's like, well, what has he been doing? And I'm like, well, he does like the thing that he did this week, and then he does the big Game Awards thing. And he basically, his job is to reveal new games to people. And her first comment was like, is it a good idea for one person to have control of all that? And I was like, no, actually, it's really not. It's funny how when you talk to somebody who isn't in the industry, they sometimes have the ability to see something from like the 30,000 foot perspective. And my wife just dropped that truth bomb on me. And I was like, no, you're right. That's terrible that he controls all the reveals in the industry now. Like
all the US and Gamescom release based reveals. I
Yeah,
mean,
because he
he
does
hasn't got his-
Gamescom too. That's the other thing. Like he does the
Yeah.
Gamescom. It's actually all three events that matter. He controls all of them.
Yeah.
But we all agreed that Microsoft surprised us.
Yes.
So
yes.
not just that, obviously they held their own back for their own event, but they also got Dragon Age, which we didn't know, and they got an Assassin's Creed trailer, which we knew. But again, we had guys not supporting Keighley and supporting Microsoft. So I think that, Marcus, your observation is spot on. It's not healthy to have one person with too much power. Because I personally love Jeff. So, but I don't think Jeff is a bad guy. But like just like you want to play a bad guy in Star Wars Outlaws, Jeff could become a bad guy. So if you give him too much power, absolute power corrupts, and it's healthy for the industry to have competition, and we don't. It used to be the ESA, and we don't have it anymore.
Well, it used to be like game trailers competing against IGN, competing against GameSpot. Like we all did our own live E3 productions, and whoever did the best and got the best content was the one that won.
To follow on why I like Jeff Keighley, he figured out that there was a void, and he
or did he create the void, Pachter?
He created the void, Mike.
So
Come
he
on.
could take advantage.
Yeah, he basically went in.
He kind of sabotaged E3. I mean, he
said
went in there
ESA,
and signed deals with them, and then out of nowhere is like, I don't want to work with these guys anymore because they're weird. And everyone's like, well, Jeff must be telling the truth.
Around their neck and then kick the box out from under them.
Yeah. Possibly. I'm just saying, like, then if there's an opportunity for somebody else to compete, they should.
But there's not, because Jeff has the bankroll of his dad to bankroll these events. Well, nobody else can really do it
now.
Now he doesn't even need his dad because they're so successful.
He is the sole director, CEO, CMO, CFO of Jeff Keighley Inc.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else could have done it, Pac, but him. He's the only one having capital.
Like, I admired that he did exploit the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so far, even if we don't like Summer Games Fest, it's better than nothing. I'm glad that we had something.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Because that was kind of one of my questions. Like, should we be doing this? Because it's turned into like a cottage industry. So IGN had this thing called IGN Live where
that's where I spoke.
I think it was like 3 days long or whatever. But if you go so I work on SIFTD, and we have an admin that's built to get all the content from all the websites in one rundown. And I just looked at the rundown from IGN's event, and I literally deleted all of it. It wasn't just that it was indie games. It was the most obscure indie games I've ever seen. But somehow they managed to turn that into a 4-day event. Now, I saw last night on Facebook some people who work at IGN that I'm friends with. They're posting like, oh, this was a big deal, and we pulled it off, and they're celebrating. But was it a success? Like, you can get sponsors, and I guess it makes it a success. Whether people actually show up or not, I don't know.
There were hundreds of people there. It wasn't thousands. Yeah. And Phil Spencer spoke. Phil Spencer was on stage. I was on stage with Sean Layden. So, and they were kind of jammed because they were limiting us to 30 minutes because they really had a lot of presentations and multiple stages going. So it was okay. And they taped it all. It's all up on their website. So, I mean, I look, like I said, everybody who does this stuff is doing something I don't know how to do. I'm glad that somebody's doing it. You know,
I can understand that perspective.
There's a reason I'm an employee at Wedbush instead of self-employed out there doing it myself. I don't have it. I can't figure it out. I love guys like Keighley who just make it happen. I love guys like you who make it happen. I just think that it would be a shame if we had nothing. And so I'm happy that Keighley, and I actually think the Game Awards is fun.
Me too. So I have fun when I go. I don't go very often anymore though, because I have to work. But
that Keighley's filling a void, and I hope he has tremendous success because that will attract competition. If he ever $50 million, then Microsoft will hold back everything and they'll keep their own money, whatever. I'm fine if the Xbox event becomes bigger. I wish Sony could figure their shit out and make their event bigger. I wish Nintendo would stop these stupid Nintendo Directs and have a big event. That would have been great to have all.
Why do you think Nintendo scheduled its Direct so far away from E3? It did it last year. It didn't happen until June 21st last year. This year, it hasn't even announced it yet.
Oh, it is in June though, because he when Furukawa came out and said we're not going to announce the Switch 2,
Yeah.
he threw out some date. It was June for the next Nintendo Direct. So,
but Nintendo is intentionally separating itself from this whole thing that we've just covered. Is that smart? Do you think that's good for the industry?
yeah, I don't, and I think that Nintendo. It's sad because I think the U.S. Nintendo people are just phenomenal. I really do. So I think what's sad is that I think Nintendo thinks of itself as just, blue ocean, different from everybody else. And I think they're on their own path. I think they don't care about the other consoles. The Switch doesn't compete with the Xbox. They're right. The Switch doesn't compete with Game Pass. And the Switch 2 won't compete with them. And they're just going to do their own thing, which I think is really a shame because they were a big supporter of E3. And the fans love it, and the press loves it, and Nintendo's got the brands, and they've got the content. I think they should brag about how much content. Like they could have had a show yesterday and rivaled Microsoft if they wanted.
I'm missing that. I'm missing that sort of head-to-head thing. Even PlayStation kind of slid out of the way and did it earlier before Not E3 to kind of separate itself from the event. Like I agree with you, Pachter. I think it's better to have this than not have it. And as a business owner that relies on having content, it's a godsend because June and July and even May, they're dead. And so without something like this, like it's tough to create content for an entire month without a lot of game releases. So I'm with you. I think it needs to happen instead of not happening altogether, but I do think there's a lot of room for improvement going forward. Marcus, what's your take? We haven't heard from you yet.
So there's this organization for entertainment software, and they kind of screwed the pooch a couple of years ago, but they're still going and they're still taking their dues. What I would like the ESA to do is hire someone with some common sense to say, we're bringing back E3. E3 has the cachet. When you have the Summer Games Fest and everybody's calling it not E3, well, the Summer Games Fest really is nothing.
Yeah.
And we're going to take this back. He can have Christmas. He can have the Game Awards. He can do whatever he wants.
Gamescom. He has Gamescom.
Yeah, fine. But we are going to bring this back. We're going to talk to our major stakeholders. We're going to say, what would you like to see? How can we integrate this where we have the best of what we had in the past and the best for the future? So we have the press conferences and they're dotted around and everybody does their thing. But we also have, whether it's one section of the convention center or whether it's not in LA at all, we have this place where the media can get together and you can see that reaction. And no, the fans are not coming in. We're not charging them $500 for a ticket to this sort of thing. We're going to keep it business only. We're going to actually reclaim some of this. Influencers want to come in or content creators, fine. If they got enough viewers and they want to be here professionally, bring them all in. Absolutely. Let's get back to that sort of level of excitement where we hype and make E3 the premier destination for video game launches, announcements, and people getting to play it. That can be done because there is money out there. Microsoft have flown people down. Sony and Nintendo can be brought into the fold. EA,
that might be a lost cause.
No, but EA, with the right people, with the right person in charge of this and saying, right, we're going to guide this. We're going to take stock. We're going to talk to the other stakeholders, find out what works for them and find a way to implement this. So it's all in one place. Because to borrow the tagline from the Welsh national soccer team, together stronger. That's their tagline. So we're a 3 million people country, and together we are stronger than anything. With this, we get everybody together and it's stronger and we are inclusive and we bring people in and we don't overcharge.
I don't think the publishers look at it that way, though. I think the evidence says otherwise. They don't want to unite. They want to have their own, like Sony wanted to have its own week where we talked about their show on Game Face. And
EA screwed it up for everybody. And then Sony, and again, it was probably Sean Layden, it was Jim Ryan. But Sony went their own way, and they're proud of it, and they blew it, and they destroyed E3.
Yeah,
I think.
Did you talk to Sean Layden about that while you were on stage with him, Pachter?
I did not. I've talked to him. I have talked to him at length about this.
Well, let me just say, if it's going to cost us $50 million to build a fucking stand at the convention center. if you dial it back, because it became this bloated, out of control mess.
If you made it, limited it to 3 or 4 million per publisher, it's totally worth it for the publicity.
And everybody's, it's one haul.
Get everybody together.
Yeah, everybody together. No supersizes. No people causing fights because, as I said yesterday, they're fighting after a fucking mushroom hat. Yeah. But have people in, have people playing the games, have the demonstrations, have, do like they used to. We have the press conferences Sunday, Monday. Show starts Tuesday, ends Thursday. Everybody gets through. Everybody comes to LA or wherever it is. Everybody gets hands-on time. And, businesses can come back in and have business meetings. Last E3 2019, I was part of a company where we had a bunch of meetings. Company went tits up the next year, but that was just
what does that say about E3 though?
No. We actually came out of E3 with so many potential things, but that the company, unfortunately, it was totally out of my control what happened to the company.
Yeah.
But yeah, this stuff is still profitable. It's still great to come in and talk to people, because while this is great, in person is still the best.
Agreed.
And if you can still have DICE, and you can still have GDC, and you can still have PAX and 37 different PAXs, and now you got the Summer Games Fest. Basically, it's a bunch of piddling events instead of having this one. And I really do think it's worth saving, and I do think there's still enough cachet. And I think if the ESA listened to some people, took some opinions on board, and appointed somebody to be their E3 czar, if you will, to say, we're going to get this done. This is how we're going to do it. And we're going to blow Games Fest out of the water. We're reclaiming our thing. Because, I mean, let's face it, it's a poor man's E3. This weekend,
you might be surprised, though,
poor man's E3.
Matt, my co-host on Game Face, he doesn't want E3 to come back. He doesn't miss E3 at all. He thinks that, the nostalgia for it is overblown. He's like, you're just hoping to go back to the past. This is what people don't want E3. She's like, Shane, you want E3. Nobody else wants E3. And then, to be honest with you, a lot of our users will back up Matt and say, nope, I prefer watching a direct. I don't want to have this crazy compact 4-day thing where it's overload. And I'll say this personally, if someone has to work and through this stuff, E3 is way easier now, but it is also dragged out. Sony did a state of play. That was a lot of work for a couple days for me. Now here's this thing, and this is 4 or 5 days of really hard work for me. And now Nintendo's thing is going to be in a week or two. That's going to be 2 or 3 really hard days for me. So I do think personally, I do kind of prefer having that 1 week where I'm like, okay, I'm preparing for it. I know I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to be dead tired when it's all over. But when it's over, it's over. It does feel like things are dragged out now, but I do feel like I'm in the minority. You got to realize our age bracket, we went through the E3s. A lot of Gen Z and millennials, they didn't go to E3. They don't have the nostalgia for it. They're like, I don't care. It's just some stupid convention that you old guys talk about. It was the freaking most great time of your lives. It's no one cares
that's because
anymore.
These people haven't contributed dick to the industry. I mean, we're talking about the people who built the fucking industry, Shane. You, me, Pac.
Everybody no, I get it, but they don't care about that.
I mean, we get shunted out the way.
Have you not figured out yet that the young kids don't care about old people? They don't.
I know, and they can get off my lawn. My point being is,
they don't care about us. They don't think we know more.
Nostalgia is a big thing. I understand that, but there is a way to do this, because I will reiterate that what Jeff Keighley is doing with Summer Games Fest is a poor man's E3 light.
Yeah,
and it's lessened the impact of the show. It's lessened the impact of this time of year. I mean, I go back and I look at my Twitter feeds from 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And the sense of togetherness, the sense of getting to know your compatriots in other companies, mixing with them. Now everybody's just off in their own little fiefdoms.
Their own silos,
you're not mixing together anymore.
But that's the way the publishers want it too, man. They don't want people coming in and barging on their audience. They want to be able to keep their audience in their tight little circle, and they can feed them the information that they want to. There's no meddling journalists like you and I talking smack about them.
Well, in that case,
like it that way.
If that's the case, then don't support the Summer Games Fest, because it's absolutely fucking pointless. Just do your own direct, because you don't need to come to LA. You don't need to see a bunch of poor saps in the public bilked out of of money to go and pay Jeffrey Keighley. So just do the shit yourselves.
Because, they kind of do. I mean, there's like I was saying earlier, there's way too many little events. IGN's event isn't even technically little.
You know what they could do? Again, ESA could say, all right, we're going to have the month of E3, which is just, we're not going to have a convention, but we're going to schedule all these digital events, all of these Ubisoft Forwards, Microsoft press conference, whatever, and you will have it here, and then there'll be a 3-day gap to here, and people can keep on coming back, and it's showing video games for the entire month, and we're going to have our indie, and we're going to have our big boy, and Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo will have 3 different, one every weekend, so they're the big boys. The publishers will have midweek or something, and then we'll have the indiecades.
Those are already kind of happening. Like PC Gamer has like the PC Gamer show. There's some other show called like the Family Games Show. There's literally like 5 events this weekend.
But it's all under the umbrella of Super Jeff Fest.
I mean, I guess the problem is that there's not enough content to support all these shows. They're just not. That's why there's just these dinky games and all these events, these like flash games. I'm like looking at them in our admin. I'm like, delete. Like, there's just not enough content to go around because there aren't as many big budget games being made anymore. So
the only thing I wish, outside of obviously, this event crashing and burning, some a vindictive little bastard, and E3 coming back, the one wish I have for next year is the Wedbush Morgan
party. You can still do it, Pachter.
I could do it at GDC. And
I'm not at GDC.
There's enough people in town for it here, I think.
Do it in Long Beach.
There's not, because there's not, and investors won't come if they aren't going to meet all the studio heads and all the company managements. So
but they're here. Why wouldn't they go to your party?
They aren't going to come to LA for it. If they're here,
you're saying a lot of them didn't come.
Only Guillermo's here. Andrew Wilson's not here.
Okay.
But at GDC, because of Night to Unite, we can get all of the executives to come.
Plus, you're in San Francisco, where a lot of them are working anyways.
And that's an ESA event, so I can get the ESA to get all the board to show up.
Makes sense.
That's the only place I could do it, and I still don't know if I'm going to do it.
Can you get the ESA to hire me to run E3?
Okay. There you go.
Or they should hire all 3 of us. We would turn. I guarantee you, we would turn E3 around. We would make it successful.
Oh, I guarantee it would work too.
But that's never going to happen. So
never going to happen. But I'm going to be disappointed if you're up at GDC having the Wedbush mixer, and
we'll send a private jet. We'll send a private jet for you.
That works.
All right, we're going to end it right there. Again, I want to thank you, Michael Pachter, for being a part of our Not E3 2024 coverage. Marcus, I want to thank you for being a part of our Not E3 2024 coverage. And I want to thank you guys, our patrons, and the folks who watch our content on YouTube or listening to it on any of the podcast services out there. Without you guys, this simply wouldn't be happening. So thanks to everybody. Hope you guys all enjoyed our Not E3 coverage for 2024. And we'll see you soon on Game Face.
Thank you, patrons.
Bye.